Hello everyone, my name is Zenitsu and I'm back with another Digimon deck profile video. So today I'm going to be taking a look at BT-06, and BT-06 adds a lot of new and interesting cards to build some new and exciting decks with. And one of those decks is going to be the Eosmon deck. So even though Eosmon isn't looking to be the most powerful or competitive deck to come out of BT-06, it's still a really fun casual deck that could still put in some work. So without further ado, onto the deck profile. Starting with the Digitama, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Argomon. So this Argomon is still looking to be pretty good for the deck just because we do want to gain lots of memory, and Argomon helps us gain some memory with his inheritable ability of during your turn, when your Digimon becomes unsuspended during your unsuspend phase, then you get to gain 1 memory. So just because Eosmon is playing a little bit differently than most of the other decks, it makes us want to gain memory more so than some of the other green decks before, and Argomon is looking to be a pretty good Digitama to be doing that. And then as far as the 5th Digitama of the deck goes, I'm going to be running 1 copy of Pinamon just because green has been lacking some card draw, and we finally have a Digitama that helps us draw cards. So its inheritable ability is a when attacking ability once per turn. When you attack an opponent's Digimon, then you get to draw 1 card. So drawing cards is always really good because it helps with the overall consistency of the deck, and that's no different here. But as far as what Eosmon is doing as a whole, the Digitama slots really don't matter, and you can kind of just run whatever you feel like you want to run. Next on to the rookies, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Goblimon. So Goblimon is looking to be a pretty good Digimon just because he's a very tempo-efficient Digimon, where he has this low play cost, low evo cost, and decent DP, just making him a good card to be running. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Terriermon. So Terriermon is another really good card for the deck just because he is limiting some of the opponent's actions because of his ability where during all turns, your opponent can't gain memory except by tamer effects. So if the opponent is trying to play around and mess with memory, then Terriermon has the ability to help shut that out, and that could buy you some extra time to make some more powerful plays, while trying to stop and stunt some of the opponent's powerful plays. Next, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Wormmon. So Wormmon is looking to be a pretty good card in the deck because it's basically acting as 4 extra copies of Morphomon over here, because it shares a very similar style of ability where it's an on-delete ability. We get to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck, and then we get to add 1 level 4 or 1 level 5 Digimon from among them into our hand, and the rest go to the bottom. So the whole idea is we're going to be trying to swing with this card, pop the opponent's security, pop Wormmon because he has relatively low DP, and then we're going to be basically gaining a card draw out of the card, making him just really good to run overall because it helps with the overall consistency of the deck. And then, like I said, I'm going to be running 4 copies of Morphomon because Wormmon and Morphomon are very similar in what they're doing, where Morphomon also has an on-delete ability where we get to check the top 5 cards of our deck. Then we get to add 1 Moana Tamer card and 1 Digimon with Eosmon in its name from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So again, just another on-delete consistency card, which is looking to be pretty good. Next, onto the champions. You could kind of really do whatever you want out of the green side of your champions, because it kind of just doesn't really matter based on the way that Eosmon is performing and playing. So I'm just choosing to run 4 copies of Woodmon because Woodmon is still a really good blocker for the deck. And what's making me choose to run Woodmon as the primary blocker for the deck over something like Kabuterimon is the fact that he does have 6000 DP, and in the current format there is just a lot of removal on Digimon with 5000 DP or below, so Woodmon has that much of a slightly higher chance of survival. Next, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Kabuterimon. So this is kind of a flex spot. Well, technically all of the green Digimon in the champion spot is a flex spot. You can kind of do whatever you feel like you want to do, but I feel like just having some additional blockers just to try to help wall out the opponent and stop some of their early game aggression is really, really good, so it helps us buy some time to set up our Digimon and set up our power plays. So I do like Kabuterimon still just because he is a blocker, and he is a very tempo-efficient blocker, allowing us to evo into him for only 1 memory, making him really, really good. And then the last champion of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Eosmon. So Eosmon is looking to be a really decent card. Its on-play ability is kind of awkward because its on-play ability states that you get to play 1 white tamer card that has a play cost of 4 or less from your hand for free, but then your opponent gets to play one of their tamers from their hand for free. So this is kind of like a devil's advocate. It could be really good, it could be really bad. It all depends on the opponent's hand. Most of the time when you're going to do it, it's because you want to play your tamer, and if the opponent doesn't have a tamer in their hand, then there's no downside to using this ability. If they do, then they get their tamer, and the deck kind of wants to interact with the opponent's tamer a little bit. So it's not like it's the worst thing in the world, but it's not the best thing, allowing your opponent to play free resources. But outside of the on-play ability, which we're trying to ignore most of the time, we're just looking to use this card for its inheritable ability of, when attacking, we get to play one of our white tamer cards that have a play cost of 4 or less from our hand for free. So just being able to play our tamers for free is already looking to be really, really good, because we are going to be running a couple of different tamers in the deck that do just help make the deck function as a whole. Next, onto the ultimates, I'm only going to be running 13 copies of Eosmon. Yes, you heard that right. I'm going to be running 13 copies. So what's making me able to run 13 copies of this card is the fact that it has this really unique ability where we could run any number of copies of this card in our deck. That's pretty decent because it's not locking us down to specifically running 4, so if we really do need to see this card, which we do, then it's allowing us to run more than 4 copies, so we could make more use out of its abilities. And what its abilities are is it has a when attacking ability where we get to play 1 level 5 or lower Eosmon from our hand for free. So just being able to spawn more Eosmons off of your Eosmon is looking to be pretty good, and the ability to run more than 4 copies of it is the reason why its ability is the way it is, so that way we could just run a whole bunch of the level 5 Eosmon to try to use them to swarm the field with. And then it has a nice inheritable ability where during your turn, this Digimon gains plus 1000 DP, so it's acting just as a generic DP boost, ensuring that our level 6s, or our level 6, is going to be as strong as it possibly can be. Speaking of our level 6, the only level 6 I'm going to be running in the deck is going to be 4 copies of Eosmon. So this is the big dog of the deck. This is what the entire deck is centered around, and this card is looking to be pretty powerful in the right hands, in the right build, used correctly. So what this card is doing is it has 2 abilities. It has a when digivolving ability, where for each tamer you or your opponent has in play, we get to place 1 level 5 or lower Eosmon from our trash on the top of this Digimon's Digivolution source in any order. And then if we placed 2 or more cards with this ability, then we get to delete one of the opponent's Digimon. So this is just looking to be pretty good because we could use our Eosmons' inheritable ability to make this Eosmon even stronger. So if we use the level 5, then it's going to be gaining plus 1000 DP, and if we use the level 4, it just allows us to play more tamers for free. So none of the abilities are really bad that we're gaining off of this Eosmon, and that's looking to be pretty good because as long as we're just adding Digimon underneath, then we're also going to be able to delete the opponent's Digimon, acting as some really good removal, which you do kind of need in order to be somewhat competitive. And then on top of all of that, its secondary ability is also looking to be pretty good, where during your turn, for every 3 Digivolution sources this Digimon has, it gains Security Attack +1. So if you're already going from Egg to Eosmon, that's already looking to be 4, so it's going to have Security Attack +1 basically natively, and then on top of that, if you're adding at least 2 underneath, then you're going to be adding 6, so it could hit for 3 security, and then if you have any more on top of that, you could hit for even higher. So this is pretty good because it allows you to punch really, really hard while trying to control and manipulate the field, while also making Eosmon as strong as she possibly can be. Next, onto the options, I'm only going to be running 3 copies of Cutting Edge. So Cutting Edge is a pretty decent option for the deck, even though it is a white option and we do need to have a white Digimon or Tamer in order to play this card. It's still looking to be pretty good because its main ability states that we get to play 1 level 5 or lower Eosmon from our hand for free. This card has a play cost of 6, and that's not much of a discount considering the other Eosmons that this card can target have play costs of 5 and 4. So what's making this card really good and stand out is the fact that it also has an ability to then delete one of the opponent's Digimon with DP equal to or less than the Digimon we just played with the ability. So basically this allows us to play an Eosmon level 5, and then if we play Eosmon level 5, then we get to delete a Digimon with 6000 DP, making it a very comparable removal card to something like a Trident Revolver. So it's not like it's the best card in the world, but it's not the worst card in the world either, because it does help facilitate our game plan of just trying to flood the field with as many Eosmon as we possibly can. And then on top of that, it has the nice security ability of activating its main ability, which isn't bad either because it basically is acting like some removal and a security Digimon all at the same time. And then lastly, onto the tamers, I'm going to be running 2 copies of Tai and Matt. So Tai and Matt is a pretty decent duo tamer to be using. We're going to completely ignore the second ability, and we're just using this for a good ability to try to help us gain some memory. So this card's really good at allowing us to gain some memory because it states that at the start of your turn, if the opponent has a level 6 or higher Digimon in play, then we get to gain 2 memory. So this is really good because it's just a very easy way of allowing us to gain some memory, and we're not running any Omnimons to utilize its second ability, but the fact that it is a white tamer that we could play for free off of our Eosmon is looking to be pretty good, on top of us wanting to use them to gain us some memory. And then the last tamer of the deck and the main tamer of the deck is going to be 4 copies of Moena. So Moena is going to be the deck's dedicated memory fixing tamer. So at the start of our turn, if we have less than 3 memory, then Moena will always hard set us to 3, on top of her being a white tamer that has a play cost of 4, so we could play her for free off of our Eosmon, and on top of that she has 2 really good abilities of her own. So her first ability states that during your turn, when we play an Eosmon, we could suspend this tamer to reveal the top 3 cards of our deck and add 1 tamer card or 1 Digimon with Eosmon in its name from among them into our hand, and then the rest go to the bottom. So we do want to hard play or figure out ways of playing our Eosmons, so that way we could trigger this ability to grab more Eosmons, so that way we could try to flood the fields that way, because again, our Eosmon level 5 just wants us to play our Eosmon level 5s, and we do have other cards to help us play our Eosmons. So she's looking to be really good for that ability alone, and then on top of that, she has a really powerful other ability where during the opponent's turn, while you have an Eosmon in play, your opponent's tamers don't unsuspend during their unsuspend phase. So this is really powerful because she is essentially locking the opponent out of reusing a lot of their tamers' secondary abilities, so that could be really good at just disrupting the opponent on what they could do, because sometimes they are trying to rely on reusing their abilities. So she is just looking to be a pretty good tamer to be using for the deck overall, obviously because of all of her synergy with Eosmon, but because she also does have some extra control elements to interact with the opponent's tamers. And then there's just a couple of other cards that you could run with the deck. So if you want, you could consider running Kokuomon if you just want to try to give it your level 6 Eosmon some extra security attack. Then you also have Agumon from BT02 in green to just give her some extra DP, or some of your other lower levels some extra DP, which could be pretty decent. And then on top of that, you even have Palmon from BT-05, which could basically just place herself underneath your Digimon, so you could increase the size of your stack to try to increase Eosmon level 6's security attack plus that way. And then on top of that, you also have Bakomon to just try to help gain some additional memory. And you even have Togemon to try to help dig out your level 5 or higher Digimon to try to find your level 5 Eosmons, which we're running 13 of, at least in the deck. I do recommend for your level 5 Eosmons that you do run anywhere between 10 to 15. So Togemon is looking to be pretty good because it has a high chance of success. On top of that, you also have Stingmon to try to gain us some additional memory through trying to attack it into the opponent's Digimon. And then you also have Dokugumon to just try to help act as like a Togemon, except an on-play ability, so we don't even have to Digivolve up into it, to try to help dig for our high-level Digimon. And then the rest go into the trash, which is also pretty good because it could be used as good fuel to just try to help get some Eosmons in our trash for the level 6 Eosmons ability. And then if you do want an alternate level 6 for the deck, you could run Puppetmon just because it's a really decent Digimon with an on-play ability, and that could also help gain us some memory and stun lock the opponent's Digimon or the opponent's field, so he's really good there. You could kind of run any other level 6 you feel like you want to run, but you do have to understand that you are going to be hard dropping that level 6 if you're choosing to run an alternate level 6. And then as far as other options go, you could run Needle Spray and by extension Flower Cannon to just try to rest the opponent's Digimon down, so that way you could actually beat into it. And then as far as an alternate white tamer that you could be playing, you could play Takumi just because he is a, well, white tamer, and he is an efficient white tamer to hard play, so if you do just need to hard play a white tamer, he's really good. He also helps stop some of the opponent's aggression on their level 3s. He does stop some of the aggression on your level 3s, so you have to keep that in mind, on top of helping with the deck draw lots of cards when you're Digivolving your Digimon in the battle area. And then because Eosmon is kind of different on how it wants to function, you could also think about running a completely different support package. So you could run yellow or black as probably the two strongest support packages. So with the black side of things, you could run something like a black Digiegg and a Chikurimon just because it has a security ability on its own. And we could also just use it as just a cheap Digivolve on top of our Digitamas. Then with other black cards, we could consider running Mechanorimon as a really good blocker to just hard play. Then with black, we also get Final Zubagon Punch because Eosmon is a 13,000 naturally, so it does get all of the abilities off of Final Zubagon Punch, on top of Eosmon easily making itself even stronger. Then, as far as other black options go that are really powerful and disruptive, we have Ultimate Flare to just try to help deal with some of the opponent's wide board if they're trying to play lots of small things, on top of de-digivolving their big Digimon down to a little one is looking to be pretty good. And we even have Iron Fisted Onslaught to basically act like the Gaia Force of the deck. And then on top of all that, if you want to run a level 7 of the deck, you could run Armageddon because he does Digivolve off of white, and he will get all of the buffs and stuff off of the Eosmon from your very large stack, and he'll also help shut off the opponent's level 7s when Digivolving abilities, so that could be pretty good and pretty disruptive there. And then yellow is probably the second best supporting package for the deck, just because you get cards like Starmons, where it rewards you for having a wide field, with it adding lots of extra DP reduction, on top of the fact that you also get something like Spyro Masquerade to play around with, where it's doing something very similar to Starmons, where the more Digimon you have, the stronger this card becomes. Then you also get cards like Wyvern's Breath, which is just basically yellow's the equivalent of Gaia Force, except in the form of DP reduction, so that could be pretty good there. And you even get cards like Reinforced Memory Boost if you do want to try to play with a little bit on the healing aspect and to try to help with the deck's overall consistency while having a really good memory boost to be playing around with. And then just some quick honorable mentions, you could also consider running purple and red, just because that they also have some really good cards that this type of a deck could be utilizing. So you could be using the red end for Tai just to DP boost all of your Digimon, so if you're trying to flood, he just makes all of your Digimon pretty strong, on top of the fact that you have Delicate Plan in case you are trying to just use Eosmon to just punch the opponent's security really hard, and you even get option cards like Gaia Force to act as some really good removal. On top of the purple side of things, you get Matt that interacts with self-deletion, and you get a whole bunch of other cards like Chimeramon and Deathclaw to just interact with the fact that you're going to be deleting your own Digimon, so you could use this on your low levels to delete your lower levels to trigger their abilities that way if you're unable to aggress onto the opponent's security with them. So there is just a lot that this type of deck can do, but right now the deck is kind of early and its support isn't necessarily fully fleshed out. On top of the strategies that it's playing with, it isn't going to be anything as powerful as some of the other topping decks, but as I mentioned before, it's a really fun casual deck with lots of room for improvement and lots of things that you could do to really spice it up to create something really fun and unique. So that's all I really have for this video. As always, feel free to tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and down in the description below are a couple of different ways you could support me and the channel. So I do have a TCG Player affiliate link, so when you use that link to buy cards off of TCG Player, then some of that money will go to supporting me and the channel. I also do make and sell playmats over on Overcard Gamers on Facebook, so when you buy a playmat with my design, then some of that money will also go to help supporting me and the channel. And on top of all of that, I do have a Twitch account over on twitch.tv/Zenitsu, so giving me a follow and a subscription also helps support me there, and I do play Digimon on top of various other games on that platform as well. So thank you everyone for watching, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content, and I'll see you in the next video.